Hello and welcome to the Delicious Recipe here on UPRN. And if you're listening along or watching along, you can check us out on the YouTube. There's the one channel that UPRN has is the UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. I'm just going to double check that, make sure that's running right now. And yes, it is. And the other one there is UFO Paranormal Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio. And you can check out also on Facebook the Delicious Recipe. There's there off of my channel and also off of Joe Montaldo's channel, the UPRN, and he's also the owner of the station. And you can, if you're listening along, there's also on iHeartRadio, Spreaker, SoundCloud, everywhere that podcasts are being played there. And tonight is, it's April 21st, 2022, and it's a Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern. And I call this one Parkay, Pourquoi. And then, I guess this sort of goes into the whole part of this with this guest that I'll introduce there very shortly, like Parkay, or if you, I can't believe it's not butter, all these sort of fake things that make them sound like they're as good as butter, but you have to go for the real thing. That's what I was saying. And that's what the delicious recipe is all about, is finding out the real thing. And with this, we throw everything in the pot and we see how it tastes at the end, whether you like it or not. Maybe there's something you learn from it. Maybe you get a little item or an ingredient from that, and you go and you create your own recipe from there. And as we do on here, we ask questions about everything, and that's the whole important thing. That such much of this time there now is that asking questions seems to give strife, where people want to cancel you for asking questions. But other than that, let's jump right into the show here. I am talking to Valerie Georgeson, author, actress. She's come out with this book. They're God, the Devil, and Me. And guess what? We're doing a whole big transfer around the globe here, Canada, Thunder Bay to France. Welcome, Valerie.
Thank you. It's good to see
you. So, you've let's why don't we start off here first for the listeners out there? Why don't you tell them a bit about your past and the stuff that you were involved in, because you've had a very interesting career. Author, actress, radio, TV, Writers Guild stuff. Like, let's get the listeners out there up to date about who you are.
Well, I started out, first of all, I was born in the northeast of England and lived in a perfectly ordinary home, family. I was always a seeker of God, and that is the subtitle of my book. It's The Chronicles of a Seeker of God, so it's important I say that.
Okay.
It was not a religious household. There were things like books like Einstein for the layman dotted around the house, because my father was very keen on relativity. And I went to university, to Birmingham University, where I studied drama and theatre arts, and with that also English lit. And then I went straight into acting. I enjoyed radio very much. It's great because people can imagine the scene, and it's much better than showing it.
Right.
If it's just happening in people's heads, it's wonderful. You can do anything on the radio. It's a place where you can break down walls, barriers, and do exciting things. And I also did a lot in television, both as an actress and as a writer. But more and more, I preferred writing. It's a better life for a start. I don't like living out of a suitcase. And I just found I was good at writing, so that's what I did. And I was still, though, a seeker. And unfortunately, there was nothing that seemed to appeal to me where I fitted as somebody who was interested in seeking God. And, at the time, we're talking about the 60s, 70s, It's a time when people were seekers of wisdom and truth, etc., etc. And there was a lot of it about. And it was a time when cults started to come into being all
Hmm.
over the world. And I was asked by somebody to check out this cult called Sahaja Yoga. And I went along to a meeting, and the lady guru was talking, and she heard what I was thinking. I was challenging what she was saying
Hmm.
in my head. She definitely heard it. She sort of made a little pause and turned her head slightly towards me and came up with the answer to what I was asking. And at that moment, I realized not only could she hear my thoughts, but she could hear the thoughts of just about everybody in that room.
Hmm.
And I found that impressive. I was wrong to be impressed, really. It was naive of me.
Hmm.
Telepathy is fairly common, really. But on that degree, it was a bit extraordinary. It's this thing about cults is people wonder how people can get drawn into it.
Hmm.
But, you know, a mousetrap doesn't work unless there's some cheese in it.
Right.
Well, the cheese in this case was one, something like that, which happened to me at that meeting. And two, there's always a bit of truth in there. She often spoke truth
Okay.
and common sense, things you could definitely tick off and say, that's a good thing, you know?
Hmm.
So that is deceiving. It draws you in. And that's what happened with me too. And I was still writing, but I got together with my husband then, and that was a marriage that she herself arranged, the guru. It was
Really?
arranged in the cult.
Okay.
But the more I went on, and I wasn't in the cult that long really. Willingly 2 years, unwillingly another, well, 1.5 to 2 years after that.
Right.
And I saw things that I couldn't take, things
Hmm.
that were quite clearly wrong. Couples being split up and families broken, children taken away and told that their mothers were no good. Many, many things. And I was in a difficult situation because I was by then having to work a 7-day week. My poor husband had been left with nothing, and he had a little girl who needed looking after. And I was stuck with everything to do because in Saj Yoga, the husband is not your husband. He's Mataji, this lady's son, and she has first call.
Mm.
So he was always there, and I
Yeah.
was having to do absolutely everything else. And I was getting exhausted. But worst of all, I was losing my connection with God because I used to meditate long hours all on
Hmm.
my own. I taught myself how to do it. I had a direct connection, and I was losing it. So one day I said to her telepathically, please give me back my desire for God.
Right.
And it triggered massive attack on me. The thing was, she knew I was a writer, and she knew that many years before I had been given a vocation. It's on page 1 of the book. I was in Coventry, not Coventry, I was in Canterbury Cathedral, and I was going through a very difficult time. And I was an actress in the local theatre. I
Hmm.
was playing in a play called Alfie, which most people know, I think. And I was sitting there between shows, all on my own, listening to the choir singing Vespers. And there was a voice that went straight through the stone up to God. It was an amazing voice. And then I heard a voice say, one day you will write a book for God.
Mm-hmm.
And it was clear as a bell. I've never forgotten it, but I had no idea what the book was going to be. And I just told myself, well, okay, I suppose I'll know what it is when the one day comes. And so I put it aside. But this guru, this lady, she knew about this book, and she knew it would expose the cult. She knew it. And from that moment on, of my asking that question, which proved that I didn't believe she was God,
Yeah.
from that moment on, she did everything she could to destroy my belief in myself, my work, my career.
Mm-hmm.
It was horrendous. She told my husband, I can stop her writing. And my husband came out of the cult to be with me, saying that what they're doing to you is wrong. And we just got on with it, trying to sort ourselves out. They had taken his daughter from him, and
The cult had taken the dog.
had taken her.
Okay.
And so she was unfortunately under their influence. But I did finally get back to my meditating, how do you say that? Meditating.
Yeah. Meditation.
And I began to find strength through that. And I needed it because my career just, it folded on me. Extraordinary things kept happening. Everything kept going pear-shaped. It was ridiculous what was happening. And I finally gave up on my career and we both decided that we would escape from where we were being harassed, persecuted.
Yeah.
And we came to France and lived in the deep countryside. And I was writing by then. I was beginning to write our history, because when they had taken my husband's daughter from us, we needed to go to court to get her back. And I started writing our history with the intention to sell it to the newspapers to have the money for a court case.
Right.
When they got the letter from the solicitor, they just threw her back at us. She was at that point 10 years old.
Oh, wow.
And she had been used to attack me. It made her write the most horrible things about me. And it ruined our relationship forever, I would say. But we got her back, and you would think I would have stopped writing the history. There was no point for it. And I was questioning this when suddenly I remembered the voice in Canterbury Cathedral. And I realized this was the book. It's taken me a long time to write it, but I had to continue to live it before I could write it.
Right. Yeah.
You see what I mean? And when we got to France, I continued I kept a journal. I mean, it says Chronicles of a Seeker of God. And I really did keep journals, which I referred to. Oddly, the guru always said to my husband that I was a journalist, which was not true at all.
Right.
And yet this book is sort of, it's a kind of journalism, literary journalism. It reads like a novel, but it's all based on fact. It's all reporting what happened as truthfully as one possibly can.
Right.
And finally, I finished writing the book here in France. My husband became a deacon in the church. Our life was completely turned around, and I had to be brave enough to send it to a publisher because, to be honest, I was scared what might happen to me.
Right.
But, you know, I had it to do. Before I died, I had to get this book out there because it's important that the truth gets out there.
Right.
And it's more important today than at any other time because it's a world of fake news and misinformation and
Oh, yeah,
conspiracy
exactly.
theories. It's needed. The truth is needed. So
In the beginning part there, we'll go in some of these meetings there too as well, of how this I guess she called herself mother, but there's a
she
she
did.
uses a whole,
Yes.
yeah,
Yes.
but even out of the part there is that when you first got into this Sahaja yoga, into there, that you were told to go and check it out. And just to say there is that people out there listening, this started back, the stuff that I saw on Wikipedia, uh, cult started in May 5th, 1970. So this just sort of just popped up, and then this is this Nirmala
Nimala,
Sivastava.
Nimala
Yeah,
Srivastava
yeah.
is her actual name. Yes.
And then she went by Her Holiness Shri Mataji Nirmala Devi, or mother.
Uh, that's
Like it,
right.
yeah. There's like I always find it sort of interesting when people go into these sort of like whatever newfangled religions or cults or whatever. It doesn't matter what you want to call them, but they're sort of out there. Is that people don't do their research on them first and find out who's leading this and finding out what the background of it. And I would ask that question of you. Did you research it? But also the part though is that who was the person that got you to go and check it out? Were they already involved in this?
No, in fact, it was a radio producer who was a friend of mine, and it was an actress that she had in one of her radio plays. And the actress had got into trouble with one guru and now had turned to this one.
Mm-hmm.
And so my friend asked me to check it out, and I thought, well, I would, and either I'll help this other lady, or I'll find something in it for me. And
Mm-hmm.
the jury was always out in me. I'm a writer, and
Yeah.
I'm detached from everything all the time. You know, taking mental notes basically the whole time, and I think that helped me enormously because I always kept an autonomy. I didn't give myself totally making
So
notes, as I say, in my
yeah.
head.
So when you went into there, she like this is the big thing with cults. Like even with you see this even with the where I don't want to mention there's a whole bunch of them out there. This station is has whatever religion that's involved with this is too as well. But they do dox people that are involved in they want to know everything about you, right? And so I guess when they found out that you were coming in, I guess they must have done research on to find out what you were doing, who you're connected to, and how to get people in, eh?
Well, these were the days before internet, Google, all these things. It wasn't quite as easy then as it is
Mm-hmm.
now to find out about people. And she she seemed to think that, do you know the Hindu term Kundalini for the spiritual
Yep.
energy? Yeah. Well, that's a big part of Sahaja Yoga. And she thought mine was particularly strong for some reason. And it took me completely by surprise. But she seemed to think that was important.
Mm-hmm.
And she married me to her UK leader, the person who was in charge in
Mm-hmm.
the United Kingdom. But I think that was partly to hold me down. I
Okay.
think that was to keep me under control,
Mm-hmm.
because if I was married to him, I had to behave because leaders' wives were always in trouble. And she made that very clear to me. And so I was sort of kept under the thumb like that.
Right.
So when I sent her the telepathic message, it showed that I was not under her thumb at all.
Right.
And she was right to be scared of me. She
Hmm.
actually tried me out, actually. She asked me to go to the BBC and ask for something from a particular producer about the Rajneesh cult.
Okay.
And I don't know this person. It just so happened that somebody had written in to me about a radio play I'd written. He was a scientist, and he liked the play. And so I got to know him a bit, and he knew the producer she was talking about. So I was able to go to see him and get the letter from him that she wanted to say it was true what they had said in his program about this other guru called Rajneesh.
Okay.
And it proved to her that I was connected.
Right.
I could,
Valuable.
yeah,
Hmm.
I could, yeah. I could go to people and I could make a noise.
Hmm.
Should I so desire? So, well, I
Wow.
have now.
So
Mm.
I just want to, for the people out there listening, there's I looked this up there too. Is that the Sahaja Yoga, and then if you break it down, Saha means with, Ja means born, and Yoga union with the divine. So it sort of comes out to born with you. And that was sort of the term that was come out through
Mm.
Buddhism. But there was also stories back in 2001 through the Independent, which is an online newspaper, that they were charged or investigated with using mind control. The like I guess that's that's a lot of things with I guess with cults. Like I'm not an expert on it,
Yes.
but I've done enough of research and stuff like that where they go and they break down the people or break down their followers in that, and that's to get them to blindly follow.
Well, that's absolutely true. I mean, you have to be very courageous and very resistant to not get completely under the thumb.
Hmm.
It's absolutely true. It's done through many means, some of which are like there used to be evenings when there were what's called bhajans, the Indian songs, and we all had to sit there and well into the night listening to these songs. And you could see people trying not to nod off. And it was true that at the moment when you're almost nodding off, things can happen
Become
mentally.
suggestive. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was part of, I think that was part of the manipulation. But there were a lot of other things. I mean,
Hmm.
women were particularly really destroyed in many, the way they were treated.
Right.
Told that they were sick, they had to go away and send you off to Australia and to
Hmm.
get better. Why? Because you were a bit feisty, that's it, really, and accused of all sorts of dreadful things. And
Right.
it, it's it's like being on the wrong side of a mirror in a cult like Saj Yoga.
Yeah.
Everything's reversed. Lies become truth, day becomes night, dark
Hmm.
becomes light, and the truth becomes lie.
Hmm.
And to get out, you have to kind of jump through the mirror to the other side, to the real side, if you like.
Right.
And I was very happy to do that because I remember very clearly my thinking, which was, if this is paradise, as she says it is, this cult, then I don't belong in paradise and I don't like it.
Hmm.
And I jumped through the mirror, and on the other side, it was weird, everything reversed. People have vibrations, they feel things. I did
Hmm.
too.
Hmm.
And Mataji always felt wonderful when you were in Sahaja Yoga. But I came out, jumped to the other side of the mirror, and suddenly the vibrations had changed completely.
Hmm.
And she attacked me on the psychic level. I remember being on the tube in London and an attack came in, which really had me nearly on my knees with lightning strikes through my head. And oddly enough, the next day at the same time, it happened again. And then it happened the next day. And I thought, somebody is doing this on purpose at specific times. So I set up a resistance. I asked St. Michael to help me.
Okay.
And put a shield between me and it and send it back when it came.
Hmm.
And it happened. The lightning strikes left me. And do you know what? I felt it arrive at the other end. And there was a lot of surprise at the other end. She
Okay.
didn't like what she got back.
Hmm.
So I learned quite a lot about how to fight off these kind of occult attacks.
Right. Sort
And
of blocking this negative energy that they're being sent to you.
absolutely, willfully sending
Hmm.
things to make me ill, whatever.
Hmm.
But the sad thing is that quite a lot of people don't manage to jump from one side to the other.
Right.
They get stuck in the mirror.
Hmm.
And these are the people who end up in psychiatric institutions or committing suicide. And
Right.
I know of a couple of cases where that happened. And I think that's what she expected would happen to me.
Hmm.
But it didn't.
Did you find out when you were doing this book, or afterwards, after you had left, did you end up finding out who this person is and how they became to be this mother? Did you ever look into that? Like, because a lot of these people that sort of come into cults, they're grifters and con artists, and they go through stuff like this, and they come into an idea of belief, like, and they create something, and then for somehow all of a sudden, all these we'll use the term sheeple just start following them and blindly, faithfully going there, giving away money, giving away time, giving away whatever, and these people get very rich and very wealthy and powerful, and just out of it just surprises me how this sort of happens.
Well, she certainly did make money, but she was already quite well off. In
Okay.
fact, she was also, ironically, a follower of Rajneesh.
Oh, okay. The person
As
that
it
she was trying
happens.
to discredit.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
okay.
They
Okay.
were actually, it's quite funny. They were in competition. They were in Pune, and he was a friend of the mayor, and the mayor wouldn't give her permission to put up a palace or something that she wanted to build there. And it was all because of that I was asked to get this letter. But anyway, she thought she could do better than Rajneesh. She could be more
Wow.
successful guru than he was. And
Wow.
so she started up her own. But in the beginning, it was not like a cult. It did not feel like a cult. It
Hmm.
developed that way during the time I was there. And my husband, who was there right at the beginning, says definitely it was not like a cult in the beginning. It
Okay.
evolved.
Yeah, because they have there was a quote here, whatever. I guess this is from her. This I keep on Nirmala Sivas. You'll have to whatever
Just
her
call
last.
her Mataji. Just call her
Okay,
Mataji.
Mataji.
That's
This is what
easier.
it was. Okay, she said, Sahaja Yoga, self-realization through the awakening of Kundalini energy,
Mm.
self-realization through a specific meditation, resulting in a moral, united, integrated, and balanced person. That's what she described. This what this cult or
Mm.
Sahaja Yoga is.
Mm.
That was from her words, and I always found that sort of weird. And this is another part that I found really interesting, is that Sri Mataji claimed
Mhm.
she was the divine incarnation of the Holy Spirit, or Adi Shakti of the
Mhm.
Hindu tradition. So she
Yeah.
self entitled herself to this holy divine energy, I guess.
Well, yes, she takes the place of God in the final chakra at the top of the head, you
Right.
know. But she claimed to be Mary at one point, the Virgin Mary, you know. She is
Wow.
all, in the end, she is all the gods in all of the chakras. Mm.
That just amazes me that people, well educated people, I'm not knocking you or anybody else that follows these things, that people don't ask questions about this at the beginning. Like where does the part where logic and blind faith sort of or go separate, or the fork in the road sort of happens?
Well, the Hindu aspect gave credence to her idea of this almost new religion, but it was very much based on integrating all the religions of the world into one. And there was a lot of truth in it.
Okay.
And the Kundalini, in our experience, is a very real thing. But unfortunately, she hijacked Kundalini and used it to her own purpose.
Okay.
I'd say something. You were supposed to meditate looking at her picture. You were
Okay.
meditating through her. That was your prayer,
Mm,
meditating through her picture.
right.
I didn't really do that. I had a direct connection previously. That's why when I was starting to feel that direct connection slipping, it was very important to me.
Okay.
But those who stuck to meditating through the picture were actually trying to reach God through an adapter. If you think of the mains as God, an
Hmm.
adapter is Mataji. And there she is, blocking your way to God,
Right.
trying to take the place.
Hmm.
So I was lucky enough to escape that hold on me.
Right.
But you can see how that would happen.
Can you briefly explain for the people out there? Can you explain what Kundalini is for people that are listening there that might not understand what that is?
Well, basically, it is known as a spiritual energy, which they say resides in the sacrum area, the sacrum bone, and it will rise up through the uh, the spinal column and fill all of the chakras on the way, different spiritual centers of the
Hmm.
spiritual body. And this is pure Hinduism, it
Yeah.
is. And it will help to clear the problems in each chakra, which should make you healthier and a better person. And whatever problems you have become apparent when the Kundalini reaches them, because you can feel the pain in the chakra.
Right.
So I hope that helps. But it it
Hmm.
it is to pass through the chakra in the forehead and come out the top of your head, and that is supposed to be full union with God.
Right.
Except it was full union with Mataji.
Right. So you can almost see this as even with the Catholic Church. I guess you would say that with the Vatican, there is that the a figurehead. You have to go through them to be as the talker going to talk to God. And
Mm,
this is
mm,
and
mm.
and like this is people out there listening there. They've heard me say this before. There it says yes. I says I'm spiritual. I'm not a big fan of organized religion. I think organized religions are good. They're good social sectors and stuff like that. Good places to meet people with similar ideas. But I always get the problem there is once a place there starts asking you for money, then I sort of I question things a little bit more. And then especially that even goes with cults there when they start uh, capitalizing your time, and you get no benefits out of it, or or you need to pay money to get to the next answer, to get to the next level. I sort of always sort of
Oh yeah.
just sort of always have questions about that. Or you have to buy this book, and there's even we're going to change it next year anyways. You have to buy the next book, but those ones there, those are questions that everybody should be sort of asking and questioning when you're
Sure.
dealing with some sort of religion or seeker or truth. So there was another part out of here. So we've already went through how you got involved, and we got about what people are, well, how you were seeking some sort of I guess sort of divine realization or meaning of life, or some sort of purpose, or figuring things out. Is that what would you sort of think?
It's finding, well, I call it the ultimate other. We're all seeking the
Hmm.
other. Everybody is all the time. And we have moments when we touch on that.
Hmm.
And those moments, you feel a pain in the heart and a tug in the heart. You know, you look at your newborn child, for instance, or a wonderful sunset, or a person that you love very dearly, and you get this feeling, it's too beautiful. It's not going to last, you know?
Hmm.
And so there's sadness, there's pain in the beautiful thing. But there is the ultimate other, and that's what we end up seeking, because we know that what we want is this sunset, this life, this
Right.
wonderful thing to last forever.
It's sort of
And then
like an
what we,
equilibrium balance that sort of there's no sort of negative, or there's sort of just this nice
yeah,
balance,
yeah,
I guess.
yeah. It's looking for the eternal, and human beings have done this from the very beginning, looking
Hmm.
up at the stars and all that, and just seeking meaning. It's as I said, in the 60s and 70s, people spoke of the search for truth, for wisdom, this kind
Right.
of thing, and it's all part of the same thing. Truth is the only reality. God is. He gave the name to Moses. I am.
Right. Yep.
God is. We are not.
Hmm.
We exist, but we are not. However, we are becoming. But the enemy of God, and the book is called God, the Devil, and Me, the enemy of
Right.
God is
Yep.
not, exists, but is not becoming. That's the big difference
Yeah. Yeah.
between, yeah.
So there's a part out of here that I got out through your questions there. It says, so did you have to deal with some sort of exorcism to get rid of her
Yeah,
negative, or
yeah.
her, do you think that she was actually a demon, or part of the
Oh,
devil's tribe, or anything like that? Or she was just she just
I honestly
pulled things
wouldn't
in?
like to say, partly because I don't want to open doors which are
Oh, sure.
better
Yeah.
kept shut. Um, but she certainly served a purpose which was not God's purpose,
Right.
definitely. And on the wrong side of the mirror, it feels like the heavenly court, but it's not. It's a parody of the heavenly court.
Okay.
And that's what is set up in what so-called spiritual cults is the
Hmm.
heavenly court, but it isn't.
Hmm.
It's a mock-up of it, and it's not God that's there in the center of it.
Hmm.
So
Well, that's always the question I have, is that when, and you touched on this earlier, there is that about questioning that there is no human being that you need to go through to talk to God. And
no,
no matter how these people want to elevate themselves, that they are, like how she called herself, she was the incarnation of the Holy Spirit. Like
mm,
who comes up with this stuff? And that just that just sort of really just boggles the mind, and that people actually believe that. And I was going, wow. I know that's. I know certain people are hurting or needing something like that, and I guess through tricks and magic or whatever, or through really good conversation, that they can snow people over. And I guess with this being talked about with mind control, that you actually sort of if you're being sort of your body's under duress, and then you start believing things. Like I can see how things
Mm.
happen that way. Like that was the whole thing about the MK Ultra trials there, that they were doing. They were finding what the limits of a body can be, through that you can actually rewrite thinking in the human brain, that you can make somebody actually think something that they did, even though they never ever did it.
We didn't do it. Yeah. Mm.
Yeah, but it just
Mm.
I find this stuff sort of really fascinating, and that these cults keep popping up. They've been going on for hundreds and thousands of years, but they always still keep popping up.
One thing which is a benchmark that I think everybody might look out for is that if you believe, I do, that God is love,
Hmm.
love is a good test. Do you feel love from this person? Does this person's action prove their love? My husband and I we were just out of this sect, and we're feeling very battered and bruised. And we took just a weekend off to go to Venice
Okay.
to try and collect ourselves. And there was in a church, we'd gone in to see some Titian paintings, and there was, for me, there was an incredible pull, like a very strong magnet that was drawing me to the opposite side of the church. And it was coming from a very ordinary statue of Mary. And I had to go to that statue, and I went to that statue, and I stood there, and I found myself just saying, please forgive me for what I've done, which was bowing to the feet of someone who was actually an enemy of God.
Right.
And she said, I felt something, first of all, and my husband also felt this, which was like a spiral of cool, cold, sort of starry air. It's hard to describe. And it was
Hmm.
going round and round and round me. And my husband had the same experience. And she said, of course I forgive you. I love you.
Hmm.
And when we left the church, I was following my husband out. I wasn't very keen on leaving this statue, to be honest. And it was like she was flying overhead, and she was calling out, I love you. I love you. And we felt that love so strongly. And we said to one another, you never got that from Mataji.
No way. No.
So
That.
this for us was a huge turning point, which took us
Hmm.
into Christianity,
Okay.
into the church,
Hmm.
and it gave us a vocation each. In fact,
Hmm.
I had the vocation to write a book, but I also got one to pray for people in sects. And
Right.
that's one of the reasons I've written this book. God
Hmm.
asked me to, okay. But also, I wanted to get the truth out there to help people who need it, who aren't
Hmm.
able to free themselves, because I hope the book will help them to find a way.
Right. Give them some sort of a different perspective, that maybe that they're in something that they didn't see. That's a very
Yeah,
important. That's very important there, is because that's like the whole part about my channel here, or my show, is throwing a lot of information in there. But maybe you take something from that, and you get a different sort of view that somebody else
mm,
has seen, and
sure.
maybe you'll realize that maybe
Mm,
something that you're in is not what it really is, or
yes.
maybe. And I think that's so important. And it's I say that, like I said at the very beginning, it's always good. You should always ask questions and question
Mm,
everything. And
yeah.
I've said this before, back before, and I say this many times on this show. There it says, as a child, a little child is always asking questions. They go to school, they are told the questions and the answers to what it is, and that's what they study. And they study. After they leave school, they stop asking questions because they've been told everything what it is, and they just follow along and they stop asking questions. And I think that's what
Mm,
I think a lot of people there, after they've left, they've stopped asking questions. They just accept, and that's a dangerous way to be.
it is, but people get tired. People get tired. They're dealing with all sorts of things, and they just are too tired to keep on asking.
Hmm.
And it's easy to slip into a cozy relationship with something that is telling you it's all right, even if it isn't.
Right. Well, we got
Mm.
a few minutes left here, so let's tell them where they can find your book, God, the Devil, and Me.
Well, you can go to John Hunt Publishing's website. The imprint is O Books, that's a big O in inverted commas. And there, you can get it on their webpage. You can get onto Amazon. I have an author page, and you can order the book directly from Amazon, or just ask for it from a bookseller, a good bookseller. And if they haven't got it, and they ought to, then and they'll order it certainly. So I don't think it would be difficult to find.
And that's under Valerie Georgeson. But you've also written some other books beforehand too, as well.
Yeah.
Let's
Yes.
tell the other people there about what were these other books about as well there too. I think this is important for people to read this book there too. But there's some other stuff that you have there, and maybe people get a
Yeah.
little bit interested in that as well.
I've written several novels. In fact, this is my 11th book, which surprises me really. But I wrote two spin-off novels from a television series called Angels, and then I started to write a novel, which I developed from a radio play. It's called The Turning Tides, and then I wrote a quartet, which goes. There's a whole novel which is set in the States, in fact, and that changes. I was going through getting out of the cult, and you can see it in that particular book,
All right.
where the hero of the book throws the salt from the tribal leader into the canyon,
All right.
which is saying goodbye to the guru, and there it is in the book. So you find it in there. And then I wrote a book for young people called Brother Cat, Brother Man. That's under a pseudonym. Now, it was interesting. She was trying to block everything I wrote. And when I'd written this book, and Hodder had asked me to write something, so it was a commission.
Hmm.
And I wrote it, and I asked if I could put it under a pseudonym. And I chose Zoe Halliday. It's the one
Okay.
thing that got through. She couldn't stop it because she was stopping my name from getting anywhere
Wow.
using her occult powers, and she had them. I'm not going to be afraid of saying the truth. She did.
Hmm.
But that is the only thing that got through. It even got
Wow.
nominated for an award. So there.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you very much for joining me here on the Delicious Recipe. This has been really interesting there, and I really appreciate that you took the time. I know that with the time change there was a little bit late for you. Uh,
Yes, it's a bit sleepy to start with.
that's okay. So, anyways, I just want to say thank you very much for being a guest here on the show, and for anybody out there that's still the people that are out there listening. You can check it out, as I said, on the different YouTube channels and stuff like that, iHeartRadio, SoundCloud, and that UPRN site there, and also I think you can. if you become a member on the UPRN site, there's extra bonus content with the other different guests that are on UPRN, and check out some of the stuff there. So I just want to say thank you very much, and it was great talking with you.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you, Dale.
Okay, and we'll see you guys later, and we'll check you out next Thursday with the delicious recipe.